my best friend April fooled our whole school. We're still in quarantine. The update has hit 100%, and our king and queen have been crowned. I've been asking myself this question while writing this. Was Jasper Mycroft worth saving? Can implanted evil and organic good fix a broken mind? I guess I'll find out. Our king has been crowned.
What did you do to him?
Mycroft shook his head like he was disappointed. Answer my question, and I might answer yours.
Connor.
I heaved out a breath.
You did something to him.
His lips curved into a smile. Don't 14-year-old girls have better things to do? He took a step forward, but when I lurched back, he stayed where he was. Surely there's a video game or a book or some Netflix show you're all obsessed with these days. There's a new one which is on my radar. Strange Things or Strange Something? I'm sure you would prefer watching the fictional endeavors of children like yourself instead of participating in your own Scooby-Doo mysteries, Miss Delaney. His words sent a bubble of hysteria climbing up my throat.
You're kidding, right? I'm breaking into your house?
I wildly gestured to Connor.
You kidnapped my friends, and I'm the one in the wrong?
He cocked a brow. If I'm not mistaken, Connor Marlowe is a patient of mine, is he not? The bastard was doing it again, playing mind games, trying to gaslight me into thinking I was delusional, that it was all in my head and I was just a stupid kid.
Strapped to a bed? You have him strapped to a bed!
I managed to choke out. I was losing myself, letting my emotions get the better of me. But I couldn't help it. He had done something bad, something way beyond what I'd ever expected, to Connor. Like he'd reached into my friend's brain and flicked a switch and made him go completely psycho. And the man was standing there with a smug smirk, acting like I was the crazy one. Mycroft settled me with a smile. First of all, I'd like you to tell me what you did last night once you left these premises. He chuckled. After you defied my instructions to stay exactly where you were. I went home, I responded coolly, despite the fog starting to cloud my vision. It was that feeling again, the feeling of the ground being ripped from under my feet. My memories from last night were gone, and he knew that. Were you alone?
No,
I shook my head.
Connor and Joey were with me.
Mycroft raised a brow. I'm afraid your condition must be worsening if you think that is true. Miss Delaney, you were the only one who left last night. The others stayed behind due to certain circumstances.
You're lying,
I whispered, my stomach twisted.
I was with them the whole time.
See? This is why I insist on daily checkups to make sure you kids are okay. Mycroft said. It's times like these when I worry about you, Mara. Especially when you're very clearly suffering from what we call psychosis. It is where a person hears, sees, and in some cases, feels, smells, or tastes things that do not exist outside their mind, but can feel very real to the person affected by them. A common hallucination is hearing voices. However, your case is quite severe, which can make these audio and visual hallucinations, just seeing and hearing your friends who are not there, seem very real. He chuckled. That's what you expect me to tell you, right? What I've been telling you your whole life. To tell you the truth, Miss Delaney, I have indeed been picking apart your brain, but it is for a very specific purpose. which I will get into, don't worry. That is the beauty of the experiment, how deeply involved you are in our research. The fact that I can manipulate how you think without lifting a finger. Mycroft caught my eye. Your mother, for example. How is she? I was spitting the words out before I could stop myself. At work. Ah, of course. She's at work. He was pressing now. Pressing and stabbing, penetrating a wound in my mind I wasn't even aware of. My hands felt filthy again. I wouldn't look down at them. I knew I wouldn't be able to take it. The thought bubbling, brewing in the back of my mind. If I welcomed it, if I let it spread through me and take over, I knew there was no going back. When hot tears splashed down my cheeks and I swiped at them angrily, Mycroft curled his lip in disgust, his eyes flashing. I saw the reaction you're supposed to have. His voice was no longer calm, no longer putting on an act. It was cruel and cutting. Why cry? He demanded. Mara, you have done a despicable thing, but tell me, how right does it feel? Is it part of your boring everyday life, The life you think you want, status quo? You see, human beings are born craving one thing, endlessly. Then it can drive them insane to get it. The man circled Connor's observation bed, his shoes clicking on marble. He turned to face me. You know what I'm talking about, right? Happiness. Some of us are deprived of it. We are born into certain circumstances that make happiness and hope and joy seem a whole world away. So deprived, in fact, that we will kill each other and hurt ourselves to find it. Escapism through drugs. He laughed. That is all we care about. Being happy. And when you have a constant supply of dopamine, you get bored. What is there to fight for, Mara? You hear headlines of the wealthy killing themselves, who supposedly had everything. But despite having all these money, all the sex and drugs and whatever pleasure or recreational activity they could find, they still couldn't revel in that euphoria, that twisting rush. Mycroft stood over Connor and leaned over the boy, a small smile on his face. Humanity become the worst versions of themselves to find happiness. He turned to me. What a boring existence. Fighting for something you may not even get. And most people don't. The world is dying after all. Eyeing Connor's restraints, a plan was slowly building in my head. I just had to stall. What has this got to do with us? The man settled me with a grin. It has a lot to do with you, Mara. Because what if we didn't fight tooth and nail for happiness? Because that is boring. Living a normal life and having a family and friends, people you love, a job, a hobby, all to be buried 6 feet under with nothing but regret. Mycroft started to pace and my eyes followed him back and forth. That, Miss Delaney, is boring. So what if I were to hypothetically twist that craving inside of us? Tell me, what is the opposite of pain? What? I was already thinking of Rory. How she liked pulling the legs off of insects and stomping on dying animals in the road. I was thinking back to our sessions when we were kids, breaking my finger on the spindle and being asked if I were feeling pain, which I wasn't. Never felt pain because breaking my finger hurt. Mr. Mycroft's babbling was crazy talk, I thought, but part of it was starting to make sense. Pleasure, he corrected me, twisting around. The man plucked a scalpel from a metal tray. Slowly, he made his way toward me. What if I were to fundamentally change the way the human brain works? making it so when a person experiences pain, mental agony like the death of a loved one, or physical, like, for example, if you were to, I don't know, stab your friend through his hand. He waved the scalpel before pressing it into my palm. When I started to shake my head, his eyes darkened. I'm a doctor, Miss Delaney. I do not directly hurt my subjects. You are his friend. I had no choice. I took the scalpel, hesitating, before plunging the blade into Connor's right palm. The moment it pierced through his flesh, I felt the jolt go through him, rocking the bed. I already knew I'd made a mistake. I'd hurt him. The scalpel slipped from my fingers and I was expecting him to cry out, to stare in disbelief at the blade sticking out of his palm. Instead, though, his body lifted into an arch before slamming back down on the table, his lips opening in a cry, eyes flickering like he was enjoying it, like he wanted me to do it again and again. Mycroft was by my side like a proud father. What you're witnessing is delectation. He's on cloud 9 right now, elicited by, you guessed it, agony. That, Mara, is stronger than any drug on the black market. Any emotion brought on by happiness or joy. It is pain in its purest form, engineered to cause the opposite of what it should be. An average person would be crying out in fear and pain. Connor's brain no longer works like that. How can I simplify this? Mycroft pulled off his glasses and cleaned them with the sleeve of his shirt. Imagine Connor's brain as a highway. When it is normally functioning, traffic goes by fine. He winked at me, and I felt that primal fear he was talking about, deep, deep down. Now, after being exposed to the program, however, there is quite a pileup on his synapses. Traffic, which stops him. I guess it stops him thinking altogether, really. All logical thought burned away with one thought dominating. All he wants is to feel hopeless, to carve into himself, mutilate his flesh to feel that burst of pain. Agony to him would be like immense joy for you or me. If Connor was to shoot himself in the neck, the very thought of dying, or reveling in that suffering, his last breaths and the beauty of feeling everything, I would put him on cloud 9, Mara. He would die with a smile. He had made his way to his desk, but I didn't move. And that, Mara, is why your dear friend scooped out his own father's eyeballs. To Connor, he was expressing his love for his father by killing him brutally, making him hurt. His lip curled. A little like your little activity last night. Your pitiful response made me rethink how I will approach this program, and I came up with quite the solution, which I tested on Mr. Marlowe. The others, I managed to get out. Where are they? That is none of your business. But Connor is who we are talking about right now, he snapped. Now pay attention. As I said, the traditional method of exposure I've been using for years now wasn't working. I got results, but they were only in certain subjects. Aurora Michelson, as you may know, was quite easy to break. But you, however, you and the others were steely. You responded positively to testing, but an hour later, your mind would seemingly snap back. It was almost like your brain was fixing itself. Truly baffling. Mycroft sighed. I was tired, Mara. How was I supposed to test the very nature of our existence with subjects who just weren't responding? Mycroft slipped something out of his pocket, a small remote. You're glued to your phones, glued to social media and the latest celebrity gossip. So I figured, instead of trying to organically twist your brains into submission, into taking the deep dive, which I knew I wouldn't be able to do with simple hypnosis techniques, why not take your minds myself? By killing Connor's father? Connor killed his father, Mara. I will take credit for the work, though. 14 years of this project, and with a simple video, I accomplished something on the first try. Technology is fascinating. Video? Indeed. Not yet finished, as it's missing something I'm hoping you will help me with, actually. I believe once the finishing touches have been added, I can begin the final preparations. Mycroft pointed to a screen which had lit up on the wall. Now, Mara, I just want you to look at Mr. Marlowe. I did, resisting the urge to squeeze my eyes shut. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? You see a broken boy, and I see a successful subject. I've already told you of your failures, but this time, however, Mr. Marlowe came through with the help of a little nudging from this very special video. With him, we have achieved something great. Something we have only previously seen in Miss Michelson when you were children. What we have achieved is creating a mind which welcomes pain and hopelessness, and it doesn't make them weak. He chuckled. It makes them strong. It makes them crave it like a drug. It is, to put in the simplest of terms, euphoria. When you stabbed a scalpel into Connor's hand, instead of feeling pain, agony, he felt the opposite. Instead of going into meltdown, his brain accepted the meltdown, enjoyed it. He craved more. Stop. I shook my head. Please, stop. What I want is the opposite of crying, of screaming, reacting rationally. I want you to like what you're doing, embrace what no other human has, the ability to twist pain into happiness, agony into pleasure. Falling apart, drowning, will feel like walking on air, like you are high on a Class A drug. Do you understand what I'm asking of you? I'm asking you to throw away your humanity. I want you to revel in the agony you're feeling, the pain and hopelessness of the situation, the blood on your hands. His smile widened, and I couldn't breathe. Dig deep, Mara, he said. You know what you did, and it's killing you. She's all over your hands. She's caked under your fingernails. And if you look further, you'll be able to see how much fun you had. Mara, you slammed a rock into your mother's skull with a smile and a laugh, and you didn't stop until her brains were splattered all over your face. I wouldn't dig down, because I'd find the reason why my hands were so filthy, why I wanted to chew the flesh off of my bones. Stop! I screamed, sinking to my knees. I barely felt the impact of the marble floor. Mycroft didn't move, his eyes round and greedy. That's it, he murmured. I want you to smile in the face of losing all hope and faith and the will to live, the will to keep going, of hurting yourself, mutilating your own body and the people you care for. Every scar you make, you will want to make it deeper. Every cut won't be enough. It will be like a virus taking over, a plague sending your body in intoxicating meltdown you will happily welcome. And you will, Mara, in due time. Our newest prototype in the form of this video will make sure there are no more mistakes. Only colorful success.
Crazy.
I hissed through my teeth.
You're crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Am I? Mycroft scoffed. Am I sick? Am I crazy for risking this whole experiment? Asking the question, if someone is pushed to the absolute brink of pain, all hope is lost. Can they be brought back? If a person was to completely lose themselves and reject happiness, could they find the light?
With us,
I grinned.
you drugged us with blanks.
The medicine made sure you stayed stable, Mara. I could complete my tests and effectively remove the memories, rendering you unaware. He chuckled, at least until my son made quite the mess. His mention of Jasper ignited something in me.
You did this to him too. Your own son.
Oh, you are getting the wrong idea about Jasper. He, believe it or not, is not included in your group. I have a vision and my son is involved. But he won't be like you. Oh, no. You won't be a mindless monster. But let's not talk about him for now. Let's talk about you and how you're going to help me. Behind me, Connor stopped giggling. I thought he'd come back to me, but in the corner of my eye, I could still see his smile.
Help you?
The screen flickered in front of me. I found myself staring at a small white room. When the camera zoomed in, I saw a blur of red hair, yellow sundress. Luna. Her name was bursting from my mouth before I could stop it.
Luna!
The girl looked up, her eyes wide. She could hear me.
Mara?
Her voice prickled through the speakers.
Don't be mad, okay? I know I followed you, but I couldn't help it. Luna, where are you? I don't know. I was checking out the downstairs before I was knocked out.
Her voice was shaking.
I can't get the door open.
I turned to Mycroft.
What is she doing here? She has nothing to do with this.
The man inclined his head. She's close to you, is she not? Would you say she makes you happy? If I'm not mistaken, Miss Martina has been by your side ever since you were children. He chuckled, protecting you from the big bad wolf. I already knew where his mind was going.
She's nobody,
I said stiffly. Is that right? So if I were to kill her right now, you wouldn't care?
That's not what I...
The man cut me off, his gaze going to the screen. Don't be shy, son. What did I tell you?
That she means nothing.
A voice crackled. Jasper. I hadn't seen him in days. A shadow was standing at the door. When I stepped closer to the screen, something cold slipped down my spine. Jasper Mycroft stood in jeans and a t-shirt, shadowed eyes that pierced right through me. He was pale, cheeks gaunt, dark hair spilling over his eyes. He didn't blink, his gaze flicking to the camera.
I'm having a nightmare,
he said softly, swaying to the left, and then the right. Voice slurred.
Tell me I'm having a nightmare, Dad.
Indeed you are, young man. I told you something important. What did I say? Jasper's vacant eyes shot to the camera.
You said I'll be part of something beautiful.
I did. Mycroft crooned. What else? Jasper took a step forward, his eyes hardening, lips forming a small smile. Not manic like Rory's. It was soft, almost reassuring.
That I'll be able to help them become their best selves,
He said in a drone.
I'll be their window of light in the dark. I'll be their humanity, what they'll hold on to.
And what is Miss Martina to the spindle subjects, Jasper? Jasper's smile brightened.
Luna will plunge them into darkness so they can find the light.
On the screen, Luna took slow, hesitant steps toward Mycroft's son. Her arms were stretched out.
Hey,
her voice was soft.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay, Jasper. I'm here. You're okay.
To my surprise, Jasper responded to the hug, wrapping his arms around the girl. But he was too stiff. His embrace, instead of holding her, fell limply against her back. And when he lifted his head, his eyes filled with poison, and smiled at the camera, I finally found the words bubbling in my throat.
Jasper!
I found my voice, but it felt wrong, like I was being sucked into a vacuum.
Please, don't do this. Luna!
I barely recognized my own scream, my own desperation.
Get out of here!
Seconds passed, then a whole minute. Everything was silent, except my own sobs. I stared at the backs of my eyelids, praying and praying, praying. What I was seeing wasn't real. I'd wake up and it was all a nightmare. Just a nightmare. Open your eyes. Mycroft's voice slammed into me like a wave, and my body reacted cordially. My eyes flickered open. My gaze was automatically drawn to the screen. The man's voice echoed in my head. You're quite the enigma, Miss Delaney. You murder your own mother by your own hand, and we still failed to break you. It's been on my mind for a while now. How not even taking your mother's life sent you into the dark. But I don't think partaking in the killing is what breaks you, Mara. He paused. I think perhaps what will truly bring you to your knees, to exactly where I want you, is to instead watch others who you care about suffer. Not just watch them, but have no way of helping them, knowing that they will die in front of your very eyes, and you will be powerless to help them, powerless to stop the inevitable. As he said those words, I felt my eyes flickering, glued to the screen.
Mara?
Luna's voice shuddered through the speakers.
Mara, are you still there?
Whatever it was overlaying the footage was raw and piercing, snaking into my brain. I couldn't look away, even when I forced myself, willed my eyes to tear from blurring colors dancing and blurring around the image of the two. I couldn't. Jasper. His name was on my lips. I wanted to scream at him, to cry out to him, to do something. But I couldn't. My body was no longer mine, held hostage by the presence that had slipped inside my head and taken an unyielding hold, enforcing its way into the hurricane of my mind, beginning to torch thoughts that made sense to me, that were logical and right. Up they went in fire, however other thoughts, twisted and wrong, starting to bloom. I didn't scream when Jasper thrust out the knife he had hidden at his side. I'd already seen it, already glimpsed the glimmer of the blade, but I was in denial. There was so much going on in my head, and I was at my own brain's mercy, fighting to stay conscious. There was a noise in my ears, a screeching, rattling, ringing in my skull. I felt it like a parasite snaking inside my brain, entangling, suffocating me. I felt myself drop once again, a puppet severed from my strings. It was all I could see, all I could drink in. I expected him to jab the knife, penetrating, but he didn't move. Not yet. Instead of attacking with the blade, Jasper lunged out and grabbed her by the throat, pinning Luna to the wall and squeezing the breath from her lungs. Her lips opened in a scream, but no sound came out. Or maybe it did. Maybe I did hear her cry, but the screeching bleeding into my skull was drowning it out. Everything went so fast, like I was watching the rewinding of a videotape. And all the while I could feel myself falling. I could feel myself plunging into a deep, dark hole I would never be able to claw myself out of. Pure agony filled me. I never save her. My eyes burned with tears, but none came. I was going to watch her die, and there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. Fighting for the control back over my body was exhausting. It was a whole other entity, something alive, something battling to suffocate my thoughts and drag me down. Jasper waited until her face was turning a bruising blue color, her kicking legs starting to slow down. Luna's eyes flickered open when he relaxed his hold, which was just enough time to give her a split second of hope that he would let go, let her live. Naive, I thought. She was so naive, so stupid, stupid Luna. My eyes were wide open, but in reality, I saw nothing when the blade finally struck her heart. I was too busy watching shapes morph in and out of view, blending together into one foggy cloud feathering my vision, words and phrases and images filling my head. When the boy twisted the knife, the blade deepening, and Luna screamed for real, I heard it. It was deep and guttural, agonizing. His movements were slow, methodical, like Jasper Mycroft knew the exact points which would cause the most pain, the most suffering. He wasn't trying to kill her. Not really. He was torturing her for my entertainment. When startling claret spattered clinical white, the scream clawing inside me faded. Somewhere along the way, I stopped crying. I stopped trying to cry out, my eyes flickering, taking in invisible shapes and colors flicking in rapid succession, burying deeper inside me and hollowing me out, reaching inside me and pulling at parts of me not yet touched, igniting, eliciting something deep, deep down. The blade of the knife was slick red, and I found myself enraptured by the color, just like the color of my hands when I smashed the rock into my mother's skull. Every time the knife punctured Luna, I saw a flash on my mother's face. Her wide eyes, terror, pain. She was screaming at me, begging me to stop. But I was already smiling. Something shattered inside of me for the second time, though this time it was different. It was feral and animalistic and hollow, replacing agony and denial with the seeds of joy, happiness, and hysteria. The fragile binding around my brain snapped, and I was released to whatever clouded my mind, whatever was trying to pull me into the dark. I let it drag me down, down, down. My gaze stuck to the screen. When Jasper finally let her go, after puncturing her gut, gore spilling out in glimmering, beautiful red, he let her fall, her body hitting the ground. But I wasn't crying anymore. My hands were in my hair, and I was pulling, wrenching at my scalp, swallowing cries on my tongue. cries of joy, glee. Mycroft knelt in front of me, cradling my face and wiping at non-existent tears. His smile was wide, eyes glinting. They matched mine, and that only made me smile wider. The man patted me roughly on the shoulder. That's more like it. He turned back to the screen, his gaze on Jasper, who was sitting cross-legged in front of Luna. You can go to sleep now, Jasper. His son nodded before curling into a ball and burying his head in his arms. I didn't realize I was standing up. I didn't realize I was smiling. No. Laughing. Singing. My gaze stuck to Luna's body, and I was laughing louder. I was laughing because it was my mom's blood that stained my hands, and it was Luna's body painted red in front of me. Both of them covered me and tainted my flesh, and I reveled in it. Mycroft began to hum a tune, one I knew all too well. Someone took my hand, warm hands in mine. Rory. She swung me forward and then round and round, twirling me as the world spun and spun and spun. We sang the nursery rhyme once again, the one I trilled when smashing Mom's brains in. White walls morphed into blurry rainbow colors, and catching a glimpse of Luna's body made me smile even brighter. I imagined the pain she had felt, the hopelessness and fear ripping her apart. So good. It must have felt so good. I was almost jealous that she got to feel that during her last breath. I was hysterical, bouncing on my toes at the thought of doing it again. I wanted everyone to feel exactly like me. Everyone I loved and cared about, even strangers. They deserved to feel pain and agony, writhing through them. They deserved to suffer until their last breath. I clung to that last memory of Luna, of her name, her face, her smile, the broken promise that we were going to leave town. And then I let her go. We all fall down. Rory pulled me to the ground, and I hit cold marble, my head spinning off its axis. I was aware of footsteps moving past me. Mycroft was talking. Prototype BP-1 is indeed a success. We'll be moving things quickly from now on, knowing that this thing works. After the swift removal of memories, Delaney and Marlowe will enter a stable state of mind. However, with the programming implemented, it will only take being exposed to scenes similar to this once more to trigger programming. They are getting there. However, we need to push them further, so it is no longer something triggered. It is a permanent state of mind they are in. He cleared his throat loudly. Are the pieces in place for tomorrow's test? We test BP-1 at once. Yes, Mr. Mycroft. Is Mr. Summers ready? Yes. He is down the hall. Has he been exposed to BP-1? Yes. And what were the results? Exactly what you wanted, sir. The boy is broken. Ready to slaughter his mother, broken. Yes. We had picked up on a classmate asking to see Joseph. Bonnie Garrett. Mycroft's lips curved. Consider her a deer and him a wolf. We'll see what he is capable of. There was a shadow at the corner of my eye, one I hadn't expected. Jasper. He was painted red, so beautifully red, like it suited him. The boy confused me. After making Luna suffer so terribly and finally killing her, slicing open her throat, he was trembling. His eyes were wide and awake, lips curled into a cry. Luna's body hung in his arms, a tangle of limbs. The sight of her filled me with glee, with ecstasy, and my friend being dead. Strange, I thought, my mind dancing. Jasper didn't seem to share my joy. He wasn't smiling. "Dad?" Jasper whispered, his voice soft and childlike. The vacancy in his eyes was gone, replaced with a feral fear, an animalistic pain in his expression that I craved. "What did you—" He blinked rapidly. His bloody grip was slipping. "What did you do?" Mr. Mycroft shook his head. He rushed forwards. "No, it's what you did. You did what you were told to do." This young lady was a stepping stone to Project Spindle. Now you can fulfill your role in breaking these subjects apart and putting them back together, Jasper. You played your part wonderfully. Mr. Mycroft trailed off when Jasper shook his head, trembling. He dropped Luna and fell to his knees, tearing at his hair. His voice was vastly different from earlier. It was how I really knew him, not the mindless drawl when he murdered Luna.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't kill her. You made me do it. You made me do it. You're inside my head. Always inside my head. Get out of my fucking head.
Jasper jumped up. His bare feet slid in pooling red, and he grabbed a scalpel, stabbing it to his own neck.
"Who was she?"
He gasped out.
"Was she like the others? Someone else you took away?"
Mycroft didn't reply.
"I knew it,"
He hissed out.
"Admit it! Admit what you're doing to me!
"Jasper,"
Admit it!
he screamed, pressing the scalpel deeper.
Admit you're the one doing this to my head! You're screwing with my head, making me think I'm sleeping. Dad? Bad dreams? That I've some made-up condition? What's even the point? You'll just make me forget again like you always do. You leave me clinging onto my sanity, trying to stay awake, terrified I'm going to lose myself completely, and it's all for this? So you can turn some kids into fucking psychopaths? What the hell is wrong with you? You're a monster!
Jasper let out a choked out sob.
Is this what you're doing to me, Dad?
Mycroft's eyes darkened. Of course not. You'll only go to those lengths to create aspiration, desire, ambition, the need to carry on despite falling to your absolute lowest and craving destruction. Jasper scoffed.
Wow. You finally lost it, huh? You've lost your marbles, and you're dragging us down with you. Well, you can't continue this without me, right? Since I'm so-called aspiration, your desire, your need to fucking carry on. What a load of bullshit.
He stabbed at his neck.
I swear to God, Dad, I'll cut my throat right here, right now. And all those precious hours, all that work playing God, it'll be for nothing. So,
His voice broke, and for a moment I was mystified and enraptured by his stance.
So tell me the truth. Tell me I'm not your son. I'm just a rat.
He gestured to us.
The worst part is I know them, but I can't see them. I can't hear them. There's nothing, Dad. It's all black. It's an empty cavern in my fucking head. And it hurts. It hurts that I used to fucking know them. I know they were something to me. And you took them away. Like you take everything from me.
Jasper spun the scalpel around his fingers.
So what if I cut their throats open? Huh. They can be psychotic if I kill them and end this bullshit before you even start. Trust me, it'll be a mercy killing.
He started towards Connor with long, clumsy strides.
You're going to dispose of them anyway when you've got all your answers. So why don't I do it for you? Huh? Will that further your project?
Before Jasper could reach Connor, however, a guard lay his hands on Jasper's shoulders. I eyed the blade in his hands, my own fingers itching to grab it, and stab it into my flesh, inciting a rush of pleasure, the same feeling I felt when I killed my mom. Mycroft cleared his throat when he closed the distance between them, his son struggling in the guard's arms. Jasper, there are two different types of love. Yes, I love you dearly as my son. You are everything I wanted you to be, and I have never and will never hurt you. His eyes glinted. But you are also a valuable part of this project, whether you like it or not. He pointed to Connor. In 2 years, he will be fully converted into an animal who craves hopelessness. And you, son, you will bring him back.
What does that even mean?
Jasper yelled.
You think you can fuck with people's heads like this? You think you can play God and get away with it? You're playing with my head and I can't stand it. I wake up and I forget conversations and people and friends. I forget faces which should be familiar, people I should care about.
He shook his head.
You took all of them away, and I'm left with you. And you've turned me into one of them.
Tears ran down his face.
You made me kill her.
Someone pulled me to my feet and dragged me over to where Connor was. I was forced onto an observation bed, and my hands were tied down. I watched Mr. Marlowe's body sway from side to side, almost in sync with Connor's manic giggles, until I grew curious, twisting back to Jasper and his father. I can assure you, you're not like them. Yes, your classmates are my subjects, but if you look at the bigger picture, I'm doing what no other has attempted. A study into the human psyche, why we tick. There is no such thing as the theoretical idea of the human soul. No such things as good and bad, light and darkness, humans and monsters, instinct versus restraint. Can humanity prevail despite being plunged into the dark? You will be the one who will answer that, and you will do that.
No,
Jasper said. His hand holding the scalpel was shaking.
I want to go home.
For a moment, the memory blurred, coming to a standstill, and a voice crept inside my head.
Mar Delaney, this is Quinn Peterson of the Blackwood Academy Task Force. Can you hear me? We've managed to establish a connection, though we are unsure of where we are broadcasting. We need Jasper Mycroft and Aurora Michelson's status. Please confirm their status or we will be forced to... Ignore them.
The redhead's voice was back in my skull, crackling static. And I did, pushing the static away. I blinked, and the memory continued, glitching in places, swimming in my vision. You are home, Mycroft told his son. You're with me, and I'm going to help you. You're tired, Jasper. As he spoke, he took slow steps towards Jasper, who stumbled back into a guard's arms. Mycroft plucked the scalpel from his clenched fist and took the boy's face into his hands. His smile was kind, but his eyes were piercing, cruel. I think it's time to sleep now, he murmured, and Jasper crumpled in his arms. You're having a nightmare, Jasper. Just a nightmare. It's time to sleep. A nightmare, Jasper mumbled into his father's chest. Just a nightmare.
See? What did I tell you?
Her voice echoed once again, soothingly, tearing me from my mind. Not before an unwelcome flash hit me once again, the day after that happened, when I was already twisted, already fucked up beyond comprehension. and I had no idea. I saw the glimmer of the sun in a crystal blue sky. I saw Connor's shoulder on mine, under the bleachers when he told me who he really was. I saw Joey's gleeful eyes, the blood spattering his shirt, his walls painted scarlet, what was left of his mom lying in congealing red. I saw myself joining in with the others, dancing around Bonnie Garrett's eyeless corpse. Jasper Mycroft is an associate of his father. Under his father's influence, he became the so-called symbol of humanity and partook in the finishing touches of Prototype B, which would later become Prototype C. Those finishing touches involved the brutal murders of Evelyn Delaney, Joey Summers, Bonnie Garrett, and Luna Martina. The world blurred and I was back, sitting in the dark, over Jasper's body. Luna was next to me. Luna, who I had wiped clearly from my brain, because she hurt. I scribbled over her face with bright red crayon and forced her name into the dark, because she had been my tipping point. I was still holding the saw, and it felt so much heavier in my clenched hands. Jasper had killed her, murdered her in cold blood. I begged him. I fucking begged him not to. That thought of Jasper killing her, blood spattering her screams entangling with the static in my head, elicited something inhuman, something feral in me. Because there was a smile on my face, and I was grazing the blade of the saw across the back of Jasper's skull. He was important to me, both the past and present him, lost parts of him and found parts. He was someone I cared about, someone I loved, right? Like Rory, like Connor, Joey, Luna. If I killed him, I would finally fucking fall. Mara Delaney. The voice was back, harsher this time. It was inside my head. We need a confirmation that Jasper Mycroft and Aurora Michelson are alive. If you fail to respond, we will have no choice but to... Her voice cut out. Control... Explosion... Days. Luna hummed. They're getting desperate. I didn't respond. Jumping to my feet. I knew the exact way I was going to do it. I wasn't going to make him suffer because Jasper would revel in that. He would want that. That wouldn't make me happy. That's right. Luna was catching on to my thought. Drive it through his skull. Look at him. Created to save you. And instead, dooming you all to a fate worse than death. Ruling as your king. She paused. Well, soon to be king. He's not quite finished yet. You're dead, I said in a shrill laugh. I watched you die. Then who am I really, Mara? Part of me already knew. Part of me was waiting. When I drove the blade through Jasper Mycroft's skull, one emotion filled me, and it was mine. Untwisted, human, relief. Real relief. Because despite knowing what I'd done at the last moment, the lights above me flickering and exploding around me, the ground rumbling, and thousands of tiny lights in the dark, all flashing that treaded 100%, I could finally stop fighting. I didn't have to pull away from the dark anymore. Because I'd been there all along. A screech sounded outside, and I didn't just hear it. I felt it, like that connection I'd had with the others had come back, with the ground trying to throw me off my feet, and the thundering sound of thousands of footsteps coming down the hallway, and what sounded like a rumbling stampede. I couldn't take it in. I couldn't watch phones exploding around me like the lights. My whole world was crumbling, and I only felt a hollow sense of happiness. My gaze went to Jasper's body. At first, I saw nothing out of the ordinary. like he hadn't even reacted to the update reaching 100. Then, though, the vines and tendrils wrapped around his head were starting to loosen, to unwind their suffocating grip. When he started to convulse, I risked it, reaching out and turning him over to face me. His eyes had been let go, not quite human anymore, but no longer pitch black sockets, glimmering an unearthly light. Whatever was happening to him was fast, his body writhing, hands clenching and unclenching. There were small things I noticed. The slime that had coated him was hardening and breaking off, tiny slithering strings of half-converted metal slipping from his ears. One glaring detail, though, at the base of his skull, where one vine seemed to hold on for dear life, refusing to retract from the bloody entry points they had been nestled in for so long. And then it hit me. When the tendril, letting out a static screech, finally withdrew from his head. I felt strange at that point. There I was, waiting to give in, to let the freaks get me, where the school, which seemed to have developed a life of its own, fall on top of me. Though all I could see, all I could focus on, wasn't the twisted thoughts that had been implanted, the craving to hurt myself, to throw myself further into despair. No. It was that when I'd driven the saw through Jasper Mycroft's head, I'd cut through the thing connected to his brain, which had taken control of him and sent him round the bend. I'd severed it. At the same time, though, 100% had hit. And there was no doubt in my mind that it too was doing something far worse to him.